Hello, Blazer fans, Blazers Edge readers. Welcome to another edition of the Blazers Edge Videocast. I am Sam Tung, along with Dave Deckard. We've been off for the last couple of days, but we wanted to talk a little bit about the trade deadline that has come and gone and actually look a little further ahead as the team moves through the next couple weeks of the season. And then also think a little bit more long term. So we have a question today about that trade deadline, a little bit, and then more long term. And it comes from Marcus. And Marcus asks, "We have no draft pick, no cap room. So what's the Blazers' best longer term hope for becoming true contenders atop the West? As I see it, there are two paths for solidifying Portland as a real contender in the West. First, do they try to package anyone on the team not named Damian or LA to bring in another all-star caliber player? Or two, is the Blazers starting five locked in at this point and we're simply looking at boosting the bench and internal development to try and push past the OKCs, San Antonios, and Clippers of the world?" Again, that question from Marcus. Dave, your thoughts on, now that the trade deadline is come and gone, obviously the team can't make any short-term decisions on the roster, but your thoughts on maybe the more long-term approach of the Trailblazers?
Well, I think the Blazers are probably obviously taking more of a wait-and-see approach. They didn't make any moves at the trade deadline, as we all know. They seem pretty invested in their younger guys, Thomas Robinson, Myers Leonard, C.J. McCollum, et cetera, et cetera. You have to remember that 11 out of the 15 players on this roster have 5 or fewer years of experience. So it looks like at this point, at least for now, the Blazers are willing to wait out at least this year and next year, try to develop some of those guys, try to get some experience under their belt, and are looking at the powers that be kind of declining, at least in terms of San Antonio and Miami, and the Blazers may be taking the stage in a couple years with a few moves. Obviously, I think you'll need to bolster the bench more robustly, but figure it this way. If even one of those young guys works out to be a high-level player, the Blazers are actually doing pretty well.
Do you think that that's the right approach? I mean, the question from Marcus is, I think spot on, in that you really do look at this as a team of 2 all-stars and the rest of the guys, or you look at it as a starting unit that went off to a blazing start, and now you're just looking to match some guys around those 5. So, obviously it looks like the Blazers have kind of chosen the second route. Do you think that that's the correct decision?
Well, I have my doubts, frankly, about whether some of those young bigs will develop. So the Blazers may have to make a move or two there. The question, as our question asker points out, is how are they going to do that? Over the next couple years, the cupboard's pretty bare unless you're willing to trade a Myers Leonard or a Thomas Robinson. And so, they haven't got a lot of resources to reboost that bench internally over the next couple of years. Pretty much a mid-level exception, and that's it. That said, they might not need to do that much other than that. They've got a pretty comprehensive starting unit. I think the big weakness, ironically enough, is the guy everybody likes, which is Robin Lopez. And I think as far as he goes, he's playing great. He's playing out of his mind. Love him. But you also have to live with his limitations, as we've talked about before. It would be great to get somebody at the center position who would, in addition to Lopez, provide a little more flexibility, a little more mobility. Obviously, they're hoping Leonard does that. I don't think that's going to happen, personally. So maybe you look at a trade that gives you another center coming off the bench, and you think you're doing pretty good. And I believe the Blazers will do pretty good with that. That is the right approach, I think, as long as you are satisfied with, making the playoffs, maybe winning a round or something. If they're looking at true championship contention, it's still hard to say whether they can get there from here with this group. Then again, tearing it all up and starting over again doesn't put you closer. So the Blazers are still not out of that catch-22 that they were in last summer.
I think it's interesting, Dave. I was actually thinking about this morning, how as fans and followers of the team for the last, really this era, that started in what, maybe 2006, and sort of has sort of that ran its course with Brandon Roy and Greg Oden, now not a part of the team anymore, and now we've kind of moved to this Damian Lillard, LaMarcus Aldridge era of the team. It's interesting how, or what I think is fascinating, is how we've followed the progression of this team, but the front office hasn't necessarily followed that progression. The coach hasn't necessarily followed that progression. And so I think that in a lot of ways, what we may think of a team that's, is this sort of the max level of this team? Have they sort of peaked and we have to look in a different direction? When it comes to the front office and the coaching staff, this is only the second year of this team being together. And a lot of times I think that we get sucked into thinking, these are the leftover pieces of a team that was supposed to contend for a championship. Do you try to scrap it and start over? But I think that with the front office coming in and having a new coach over the last couple of years, it adds a completely different element to the way that they're approaching this team. And you have to start to think that, they're not there's no thought in their mind to tear this thing down. This is only the first couple years of their longer term plan.
Well, they set it up, though, to be recycled in 2015 if they so choose. Nicola Batum and the young guys are the only people under contract past that point. So they do have that nuclear option if they want to take it. They've built it in. The problem is, flexibility-wise, if they don't take that option, then they are kind of stuck with this team a little bit. Like we said, mid-level exception, possibility over the summer. But other than that, they can't grow this summer. If you start to extend Aldridge, if you extend Damian Lillard, if you plan to re-sign Wesley Matthews, if you plan to re-sign Robin Lopez, just keeping that starting lineup together is going to be kind of expensive. And that will eat into all or almost all of that 2015 cap space, leaving you just marginal room to improve there. So it's not like they don't have the right ideas. It's just that every swing they take kind of comes short of a knockout punch. And basically it seems like they're going to have to go whole hog one way or the other. Now, the other interesting thing, though, that you point out is it's easy for us to say that. If we assess that this team is reaching its ceiling this year or next year, and that ceiling is short of a championship, it's easy for us to say, hey, yeah, blow it up, recycle. But these people's careers are on the line. These people's finances are on the line. They still have to sell tickets. And it's a lot harder to sell a rebuilding plan, another one, than it is to sell the hope that this team hasn't reached its ceiling. So even if they self-assess, there may be motivation to keep this thing going and just be a good team, not a great team, or an almost great team for the next few years rather than starting over. I mean, who knows? They have a lot more things to consider than we do.
And I think that one of the considerations, my last thought on this thing, Dave, is the fact that Damian Lillard, at some point, his contract's going to run out, and he's going to get paid a lot more than what he's getting paid right now. And you have to think that, the emailer talks about, do you keep LaMarcus and Damian and try to scrap the rest and sort of build around those two guys? I think that the team doesn't want to do that, but as you said, financially, they might be kind of forced into that situation just because Lillard is going to demand quite a bit of money on the free agent market, and I'm imagining the team is going to try to lock him up before he even hits that point.
Yeah, and eventually you have to think of considerations like Aldridge's age. I mean, he's going to age out quicker than the rest of this team. So how long can you build around him? Now, that's not going to happen in the next 2 years, but if you're talking about Damian Lillard hitting his apex and that's your big hope, well, by then Aldridge is, 34, something like that? So he's kind of gone past his expiration date a little bit in terms of being in his prime for a championship run. I mean, there's things still to resolve, and somehow they've got to put these pieces together so that they all make sense. And that's not as easy as it looks. And honestly, the way it's turning out, it really doesn't seem like it's as easy as, just add a couple of nice bench pieces, like everybody's saying, because, they could have done some of that right here this week, and they opted not to do it. I think all it would have taken was parting with one or two of those young guys, and they could have made a better offer for some of these players that got traded. If all they needed was a small bench boost, to contend, they could be there or close to it right now. That they didn't kind of signals that the puzzle pieces aren't ready to fit together yet, and we're going to have to see what they do this summer. If they make another big move, that's great. That must mean they were on the cusp. But it's going to be really interesting if they don't make any significant moves this summer again. Then you start to really wonder what they're planning to do with this team.
Well, we do know that in the short term, the team opts not to make a move at the trade deadline. Want to thank Marcus again for his email, projecting out a little bit further, really kind of into that summer of 2015, where the team has a lot of decisions to make, both this summer and the summer after. So again, thanks to Marcus for his email, and that's going to do it for us here for this edition of the Blazers Edge Videocast. Again, keep it on blazersedge.com. We've got a lot of games coming up this week, so check out game previews, recaps, and comment in the threads, and we will talk to you all in a couple of days.